Unsatisfied with murdering only preborn babies and old people, our rulers decide to take their bloodlust out on ostriches, because when a death cult is in power, no human is safe, and no bird is safe either, apparently. Unwilling to accept a relatively mild punishment for Chris Barber and Tamara Leach, the Crown has appealed the court's decision and is seeking a greater punishment for the Freedom Convoy organizers. Our civil apparatus in Canada has utterly failed, and they continue to fail, and the Conservatives will not save us. And Christmas time reminds us that only Jesus can save us and our nation. He came to this earth to deliver us from the domain of darkness, and only He can deliver Canada from complete ruin. It's November 14th. I'm Andrew DeBartolo. This is Liberty Dispatch. Friends, welcome once again to Liberty Dispatch, where we bring you conservative Canadian news and analysis from an unapologetically Christian perspective. Make sure that you head over to like and subscribe to our Rumble and YouTube channels. Listen to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you join our mailing list over at our Substack. You can subscribe there. That is ldcanada.substack.com. Consider becoming a paid subscriber so you'll have access to all of our interviews, all of our content. You'll get everything behind the paywall. You can help support the show and the work that we do. So again, subscribe to everything, join everything, like everything, follow everything. Consider becoming a paid subscriber as well. You know, whether you're just beginning to chart your financial future in the middle of your career or easing into retirement, ensure your investment portfolio is optimized for growth and truly reflects your core values. At Rocklinc Investment Partners, they'll collaborate with you to craft a tailored financial strategy, then construct a portfolio designed to meet your needs. Throughout the process, they'll safeguard your capital by actively steering clear of DEI and the wrong ESG influences, focusing on a portfolio of high-caliber companies built to endure market volatility and deliver compounding returns. Schedule your complimentary portfolio review today by calling Rocklinc at 905-631-5462 or emailing them info@rocklinc.com. You might be wondering, where is the ginger in crime? Well, Matt is getting ready to board a plane soon. He's going to be at a conference in the Niagara region, so I'm flying solo tonight. So other than our ad read, a little bit of announcement I wanted to get out of the way at the top of the show before we get into our interview. And I wanted to announce this by way of unpacking a little bit of history for those who are curious to know. So the first ever episode of Liberty Dispatch was in March of 2021. So a year after the world went crazy. Mike and Tim hosted the show for quite a while. And the first time that Matt and I actually did a show together would have been the year later, March of 2022. The first time I had the opportunity to be on the show at all was in January of 2022, when we got to interview Pastor John MacArthur regarding Biblical Sexuality Sunday. Matt and I did our first episode, as I said, in March of 2022. And then finally, Matt and I had the privilege of taking over the Dispatch fully from Mike and Tim in May of that same year, May of 2022. So we are essentially going on over 3 years at this point, 3.5 years that we have been doing Liberty Dispatch. I mean, it's been a wild ride, thinking about the people that we've been able to interview, the people we've been able to have discussions with. It has been something unbelievable. And Matt and I have already hinted at that soon we are approaching our 350th episode of Liberty Dispatch. That will be happening toward the middle of December, right before Christmas, December 18th or 19th, depending on when we release, is our 350th episode. And on top of it being an absolute banger, which it will be. And I'll mention briefly what will be happening that episode. Because we're a month away from that, I also wanted to take this opportunity to kind of share and unpack for people that episode, the 350th episode, will be my last episode with Liberty Dispatch. I am stepping away from the Dispatch and from the podcasting world. I am hanging up my headphones and my fancy light and my very expensive microphone, and I am stepping back from the podcasting world. And for those of you who are wondering why exactly, especially in light of the episode we're going to have, which is going to be an absolute home run, why the stepping back? This is something that my wife and I have been discussing for a while now. We have 5 kids. There's a lot going on around the house. We are all, as a family, my wife, myself, my 2 oldest boys, are getting more involved in serving in our church. I've recently taken on some extra responsibilities at the classical Christian school based out of my church. So I'm not only teaching grade 7 and 8 and teaching Bible and worldview to the high school students, but I've also taken on some academic and administrative duties. Also, several of us from our church have recently started an EDA, an electoral district association, in our riding, and we're seeking to engage politically in an intentional way. So lots of stuff going on. So in light of all of this, and even before some of this came to being, even before a lot of these opportunities became realities, we just discerned that it was time to move on. It was time to focus effort and energy more locally in what was going on in our church and in our community. And we felt a tremendous peace about it. So I told Matt, we had discussed it, and Matt is fully committed to continuing the Dispatch, and I'll let him reveal the plans going forward into the new year, because there's actually some pretty exciting stuff as the show will continue even after I'm gone. There's lots to be said. There's lots that will be said in the next month on our episodes and on our final, or my final episode, December 18th or 19th, for our 350th episode. So I'm not going to say too much now, other than as I've been looking through old episodes and footage, I couldn't have imagined or written for myself the kind of experiences I've had as a result of being a part of Liberty Dispatch and previously Liberty Coalition Canada. You know, I've had the opportunity to travel all over the country, literally from coast to coast. I've been in Nova Scotia, I've been in BC, and I've been everywhere in between, being able to teach and discuss at conferences, being able to do pulpit supply for pastors, friends of mine, building incredible relationships with men that I otherwise wouldn't have known. I know I've had the privilege of being able to be a voice of sanity for many as we cover material that no one else would, from a biblical perspective that no one else does. I know, because I've had people reach out, that I've been able to be a part of helping hundreds of you, Canadians, Christians, find good churches after their churches were locked down. I know that many of you have pulled your kids out of public schooling and are now homeschooling them or enrolling them in classical Christian schools or private Christian schools. Many of you decided not to leave Canada, but to stay and fight, even though you were considering it. And many of you have started businesses and doubled down on cultural, political engagement. We've been able to work with people to help train them to run for office in municipal, provincial, and federal elections. It's been amazing. I'm supremely grateful and thankful to the Lord for the opportunities that He has given me, for the ability to be a part of this podcast and this organization, for the relationship I'm able to build with Matt, and for our time together. It's been something else. It's been something else. And yes, I will miss the experience of things we've been able to do. I quite enjoy it. And yes, it will be a little bit of a change for me and a change for our audience, but I am quite content with this decision. And I'm very much looking forward to this next chapter of my life and of my family's life as we focus our energies and our efforts in a little bit of a different way. So I know that for some of you, you might be a little bummed to hear that, because you enjoy hearing me own the libs, and you enjoy the spicy Italian takes, well, it's still going to be good. It's still going to be good, and it's still going to be the same analyzing and examining culture, politics in Canada from a distinctly biblical worldview. And I am confident in the success and really the importance and value of the Dispatch, even as I will be stepping back from it. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this episode because we need to build into our 350th episode because it's a milestone episode and because it's my last. I figured I'd reach out to a bunch of our friends, people we've interviewed, people we've had discussions with, and really make this an absolute banger. So, our 350th episode will include portions of interviews from various guests that we will put together. So the plan is to have the full interviews over at our Substack behind the paywall. You have to be a paid subscriber. So the interviews will be anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes with these men. And then in the episode, we'll be showing a portion, maybe 15 or 20 minutes from each episode. And we'll be stringing them together and giving commentary as well. But if you want the full episode, you're going to have to become a paid subscriber. So who, you might be wondering, will be on this 350th episode, my final episode? Well, our guests will include, and this is in no particular order, we will have an interview with Dr. Peter McCullough. We will have an interview with Dr. Robert Malone. We will have an interview with John Carpe from the JCCF. We will have an interview with Dr. Joe Boot. We will have an interview with Pastor Doug Wilson. We will have an interview with Pastor Aaron Rock and an interview with Pastor Alex Klusterman. And also, if we're able to schedule it and make it work live, the plan is to have both Mike Thiessen and Tim Tyso on the final episode as we celebrate really the last 4 years or so of Liberty Dispatch. So it is going to be a wild episode, and I really couldn't think of a better way to finish off my time with Liberty Dispatch. If there are any of you that have concerns or questions or comments or feedback, or you want to express how sad you are because you won't be seeing and hearing me anymore, or how glad you are that you won't be seeing and hearing me anymore, then make sure that you reach out to us, libertydispatch@pm.me. We'd love your questions. Another thing that we want to do, and I'll say this now, is we want our audience to share with us. So again, libertydispatch@pm.me. Why don't you reach out to us and let us know what have been some of your favorite, most important, most impactful, most memorable parts of the podcast of the last 350 episodes for us to celebrate and for me to celebrate as well. So again, reach out to us, let us know. And with that out of the way, it's time to cover our stories and just continue to shake our heads at what's happening in our country. So in Canada, under the guise of public health and protecting citizens, where have we heard that before, our leaders will operate like tyrants and seeking ultimately to limit our freedoms. Now, think COVID, right? A nationwide display of corruption. That's what we saw. Well, apparently, the Supreme Court of Canada believes that the civil government has the right to destroy your property and livelihood because, they care for us and they want to keep us safe, right? This is from the Post Millennial. Quote, the Supreme Court of Canada on Thursday dismissed an appeal from Universal Ostrich Farms to stop the Canadian Food Inspection Agency from slaughtering hundreds of birds on the farm. CFIA officers have been poised for weeks to slaughter hundreds of healthy ostriches that were exposed to the H5N1 avian influenza almost a year ago in December of 2024. On September 22nd, the CFIA and the RCMP invaded and occupied Universal Ostrich Farms located at Edgewood, British Columbia, a picturesque town in the heart of the Kootenays, located not far from the Valhalla Provincial Park and about 2 hours east of Kelowna. On September 24th, the Supreme Court of Canada ordered a stay of that execution while it considered an appeal from the farm. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency will be moving forward to complete depopulation and disposal measures as authorized by the Health of Animals Act and guided by the stamping out policy for highly pathogenic avian influenza, the CFIA said in a statement on Thursday morning. Even when it comes to killing birds, they can't help but be dystopian and Orwellian. It's pretty astounding. Upon discovering that the court would rule on November 6th, farm spokeswoman Katie Passitney, I think that's how I pronounce it, Passitney, told the Post Millennial, even when people say, oh, let's talk about something else, this isn't that important. I disagree. I mean, this is everything that's important right now. And it's not because of just our ostriches. It's about how we got here, how this started, what has happened in between, and what this means to all Canadians. And she's right. This is everything that's important right now. This is our freedom of speech. This is our land rights. This is how they can come in and seize your property and kill based on suspicion. This is eradicating your animals with no respect, with no dignity, with no second thought. Science is being thrown out the window and speculation is winning. There's no more discovery. There's only destruction. This is everything that matters right now in Canada, and we need to see that, because if we don't see that, then we are much further gone. Then we are that much further gone, Passitney said. Now, the article continues. Immediately following the announcement Thursday, Passitney told the Post Millennial, this is punishment. These animals have been alive for over 300 days, healthy, never tested. Those animals are setting up guns. They're setting up gun cases. They're setting up guns. These animals are 35 years old. We're not a commercial poultry facility, and we're not for food consumption. These are families, babies, and my mom will never get them back. When did life become so meaningless in Canada? When did we start offering maid to the people who are sad, who are depressed, or who can't get up the stairs properly because they're older? When did we lose the quality, the value for life? She asked. Passitney accused the CFIA of ignoring the Supreme Court's order that instructed the government agency to care for the birds, but instead systematically took action with neglect, maltreatment, and cruelty. Former federal Minister of Agriculture estimated that the operation at the farm was costing taxpayers at least $100,000 a day. The CFIA has been preparing to kill 399 ostriches based on a cull order that followed an apparent outbreak of avian flu on the farm in December 2024, and was also continuing to refuse to test the birds even after a highly publicized intervention by U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who argued the birds needed to be studied to see what antibodies they created to develop immunity to avian flu, that these animals provided vital information that could protect humans as well. The federal agency continues to insist that the birds could still develop a mutant virus, but many scientists say this is highly unlikely. There was obvious video evidence of cruelty and harassment at the farm since the court granted custody of the birds to the CFIA. Passitney, who is the daughter of farm owner Karen Esperson, repeatedly asked the CFIA for permission to count the number of birds on the farm, but was denied access to the death pen that the agents had constructed out of hay bales, or even to cross a barricade placed around the 58-acre farmland. The farm is owned by Karen Esperson and David Belinsky. Passitney also works on the farm and has become a familiar face on Canadian and U.S. news reports. Her story of seeing government overreach, steal, and kill livestock while destroying their livelihood has been likened to a second Freedom Convoy story for Canadians. Passitney is appealing to the same conservatives and libertarians who supported Tamara Lich and Chris Barber in the Trucker Rebellion. The story all began on December 19, 2024, when the trio noticed some sick birds on the farm. Within a month, 69 of the ostriches were dead of what might have been avian influenza. The remainder of the birds developed herd immunity and survived. So what was the end result? How did this all go down? Well, this is also from the Post Millennial. A very sad end. The killing at Universal Ostrich Farms began at 6 p.m. on Thursday evening. Supporters documented their anger, shock, and disbelief over the massacre on thousands of social media posts. The farmers are devastated but determined that what happened to them not happen to other farms in Canada. The family had steeled themselves for this day after learning that the Supreme Court of Canada had dismissed their appeal to stop the Canadian Food Inspection Agency from slaughtering hundreds of ostriches on the farm because of an apparent outbreak of H5N1 avian influenza in December 2024. But they weren't prepared for what happened next. At least 2 marksmen with the CFIA's Enforcement Investigation and Services Unit from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, began firing at the ostriches. The slaughter continued until the early hours of the morning of Friday as the shooters expended over 1,000 rounds into the birds. Although the CFIA claimed that shooting the birds was humane and appropriate, some of the ostriches survived the firestorm of bullets and were left to suffer on the ground throughout the night, their cries being heard by the supporters. In the morning, hundreds of dead ostriches were seen on the ground as the CFIA inspectors decapitated several of the birds that were squirming on the ground. Close quote. But what can you expect? I mean, what else would you expect from a Supreme Court that, as Matt and I covered recently, says that if you're a pedophile and if you create and distribute child pornography, it is just unconstitutional and evil that you should have a minimum 1-year sentence in prison? Or a Supreme Court that says old people who are an inconvenience, kill them. People with mental illnesses, kill them. Kids, let's castrate them. Preborn babies, they can die too. This is what you would expect from leaders and elected officials, from judges and bureaucrats, from lawmakers. If they are a part of a death cult, this is what you would expect to see. More death. This should shock us. This should disturb us, but this shouldn't surprise us, because this is precisely when you reject God and you reject his law and you reject dominion and you reject the stewardship of the earth and the fact that we're made in his image. This is what you would expect. You would expect unnecessary death and violence. And you would also expect a tyrannical state saying that we have the authority to destroy your property and the court won't hear your appeal and there's nothing you can do about it. This is just more of the same that we've seen in the last number of years. I know it's your restaurant, and I know that you're actually running it in an ethical manner, and I know that the virus isn't actually deadly, but we're going to shut down your restaurant and ruin your livelihood, and there's nothing you can do about it. So we shouldn't be surprised by this. We should be disturbed and disappointed by it. We shouldn't be surprised by this. This is what you would expect from a tyrannical state, and expect to see more of this. Expect to see more of, in the name of safety and public health, we're doing this for your good. It's humane. It's all a bunch of garbage. But we can't be surprised by this. We can't be. We have to be ready for this, and we have to understand that this is the civil apparatus that we are operating with, that we are dealing with in our country. Inflation through the roof.
Food costs went up 10.6% in February.
Censorship of dissident voices, freezing of bank accounts.
Justin Trudeau invoking emergency powers against the truckers. Banks can now freeze their personal accounts, the accounts of anyone linked to the Freedom Convoy.
Digital surveillance and communism spreading.
What do we want?
Basic income!
With the basic income, and I felt a sense of security because I didn't have to worry about not going hungry, and I didn't have to worry about being kicked out of my apartment.
The government is on the verge of bankruptcy, and they're coming for your money.
Canada's federal debt increasing in real time, now surpassing $1.2 trillion. This debt is draining taxpayer dollars, with interest alone costing $54 billion this year.
It's time to break free and start saving in money they can't take from you. Since 2013, the folks at Bull Bitcoin have one mission: destroy central banking. Bull Bitcoin is the most trusted Bitcoin company in Canada. They empower you to buy, sell, and pay bills with Bitcoin. They are 100% non-custodial, which means that you always maintain full control over your Bitcoin, allowing you to reclaim your financial sovereignty and secure your wealth for the future. Their customer support will assist you throughout the whole process, helping you get your hands on the hardest money ever created. Escape their financial gulag, click on the link below, and start buying Bitcoin today. You see, whenever you push back against a tyrant, they hate it. And whenever they don't get what they want, they will do everything in their power to make you suffer for your defiance. This is our federal government. This next story is from LifeSite News. Quote, government lawyers for the Crown have filed an appeal the acquittals of Freedom Convoy leaders Tamara Lich and Chris Barber on intimidation charges. The Crown also wants their recent 18-month conditional sentence on mischief charges replaced with harsher penalties, which could include possible jail time. According to the Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms, it is asking the Ontario Court of Appeal to enter a conviction on the intimidation charge or order a new trial on that count for Barber's charges. Specifically, the Crown's appeal claims that the judge made a mistake in her verdict on the intimidation charges and also in how she treated aggravating and mitigating factors regarding sentencing. Close quote. Here's the exact wording from the Crown in their appeal for the decision. So it says this, quote, the grounds for granting leave to appeal are, 1, the trial judge erred in law in her interpretation and application of the elements of the offense of intimidation in Section 423, subsection 1 of the Criminal Code. 2, the trial judge erred in principle in her treatment of aggravating and mitigating factors on sentence. 3, the trial judge erred in principle by imposing a concurrent sentence on Christopher Barber for the offense of counsel to disobey court order. 4, the trial judge erred by imposing a sentence that is manifestly unfit. And 5, such further and other grounds as counsel may advise and this honorable court may permit. The relief sought is, and the tyranny, the petty tyranny and vindictiveness that's sought is this. 1, that the appeal against acquittal be allowed and a conviction be entered on the count of intimidation, or alternatively, that a new trial be ordered. And 2, that the application for leave to appeal against sentence be allowed, that the appeal against sentence be allowed, and that the sentences be increased, close quote. This is pretty astounding stuff. So the judge was wrong, not bad enough, got to be harsher. Even the suggestion, let's have a new trial, as if the longest mischief trial in Canadian history wasn't long enough, as if the injustice system that puts the Coots 4 in custody for an unnecessarily long period of time. So we need a new trial. We need to waste more of our tax dollars and take even longer. It's pretty crazy to think that Tamara Lich and Chris Barber, who should have gotten no penalty for what they did, right? Ultimately, the penalty they got, though was much lighter compared to what they were facing, is still unjust. They shouldn't have gotten anything for what they did. The fact that the Crown comes out and says, no, you know what? More penalty. It needs to be worse. What a bunch of petty tyrants that are so furious that they were defied, and so furious they were defied with Canadian support, and so furious that the people who defied them weren't punished and ground into oblivion as a result of it. This, by the way, is a picture of how our elected officials feel about us. If you think they actually care about us, the individuals, the little people, this is how they view those of us who would agree with Tamara Lich and Chris Barber. That we think that laws should be a certain way, that our freedom should be protected, that we have the ability to express our frustration in peaceful, organized, and lawful ways. This is what our elected officials, this is what the Crown thinks about us. That you need to be punished for your beliefs, that you need to be put in prison, that you need to be drugged through a lengthy, costly, awful trial period, that you need to be really, really disciplined for daring to defy the Goddaddy state. This is their mentality. This is what they think about us. This is what they would want to do to us. And we need to understand this. If we are going to actually be best positioned to care for our family and do what's needed in the days ahead, we cannot be confused about what's going on and what time it actually is in our country in relation to, or as it pertains to, our elected officials.
Now is not the time to surrender or retreat. Now is the time to build. It's not time to simply complain. It's time to get to work. It's time for people who share the values that built this nation to be open about them, to celebrate them, and to defend them. Our goal at Resistance Coffee has always been bigger than coffee. We want to fill the cup of every patriot in this land. We want to fuel a resistance of ordinary Canadians with extraordinary values. We want to encourage and inspire people who feel like they've lost their home to take it back. Now is the time to build. Fuel up and let's go.
And finally, as if our stories don't clearly highlight what kind of civil government and unelected bureaucrats and judges we have, what episode will be complete without showcasing state incompetence and negligence? It's almost like we have to have it. It's got to be a regular staple in our episode. It really is a cherry on top to talk about just how awful our elected officials are, how awful our civil structures are. So this is from Juno News, quote, "The Liberal government has revealed that it spent over $7.1 billion in taxpayer dollars on child supports for non-permanent residents and other non-citizens over the last 9 years." Just great. In a written response to a question from Conservative NP Brad V., the Liberal Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne revealed that nearly $7.134 billion in Canada Child Benefit payments went to people in Canada who were temporary residents, protected persons, or other non-citizens after excluding permanent residents. The response broke down the number of citizens, permanent residents, and others who received the CCB, as well as the total amount paid for each year since 2016. Champagne revealed that $241.5 billion has been paid out to program recipients since 2016. In the first year, over 60,000 non-permanent residents and non-citizens received more than $318 million from the CCB. By 2024, there were over 160,000 temporary residents, protected persons, and other non-citizens who received nearly $1.17 billion. In the first 9 months of 2025, there's already over 17.5% increase in the number of non-citizens and non-permanent residents receiving the CCB. There were also 2.56% more tax dollars spent on the 188,000 recipients, with over $1.2 billion given to non-citizens and non-permanent residents in Canada in childcare benefits, close quote. This is how they're wasting our money. Non-residents, non-citizens receiving the childcare benefit. So we're not able to spend our money wisely. We're not able to take care of ourselves. We're not able to deal with significant problems. So what do? Well, let's just waste more money on non-citizens. Let's waste more money on non-permanent residents, people who should not be receiving these benefits. And ultimately, a lot of this money is socialistic, communistic waste anyways. But the fact that rather than deploy these funds in other effective, meaningful, helpful ways, they are spent on non-citizens and non-residents, it's almost as if they want to go out of their way to intentionally destroy our country. It seems that way sometimes. It seems as if there's a concerted effort to tear Canada down and watch it dissolve and watch us plunge into collapse and ruin. It's almost like this is what they want to do. It's their plan all along. But we don't have to worry, right? We don't have to worry because even though maximum carnage is at the helm of the liberal tyranny, our trusty Conservatives will come to our rescue. I mean, they will demand a vote of confidence, and we're going to go into an election. We're going to undo liberal corruption, right? They're committed. They'll stand against the Liberals. They'll bring in the vote of confidence. They will work to fight for Canadians, or not really. So this is from iPolitics. Quote, Prime Minister Mark Carney has survived a confidence vote for the second time this week after MPs overwhelmingly defeated a Bloc Québécois amendment to the government's recent budget. The Bloc called on the House of Commons to reject the budget on the basis that it did not provide a top-up for old age security recipients and contained insufficient measures to fight climate change, amongst other grievances. Budget motion amendments aren't always considered confidence votes, but Government House Leader Stephen McKinnon said the government was treating them as such, raising the prospect of a snap election. The amendment was defeated by a margin of 306 to 30 on Friday through NDP MPs and Green leader Elizabeth May backed the sovereigntist proposal. As such, listen to this, it was the Conservatives that helped the government from being defeated. You heard that right. If Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's caucus of 142 MPs, which does not count newly minted Liberal Chris D'Entremont and pending Resigné Matt Généreux, if they'd voted against the government, Canadians would have been sent back to the polls for a second time in less than 12 months. A final vote on the government's budgetary motion, which will also be a confidence matter, has been scheduled for November 17th while parliamentarians return from a one-week hiatus. The Conservatives and Bloc have already indicated they will vote against the budget, though the NDP's position remains unclear, close quote. Did you catch that? That if the Conservatives all cast their vote a certain way, then we would have been going to another election. We would have toppled the Carney Liberals, and we would have went back to the polls. But that's not what we did. Now, they might try to spin it, we don't want to go through this. It's a waste of money, a waste of time. There's more important things to do. Who knows, however, they're going to spin it. But at the end of the day, here was an opportunity to get rid of this Liberal government and go to an election, and they didn't take it. Because the Conservatives are in on the jig. They're in on the whole facade. They are just another wrestler in the WWF. They're a part of this mafioso connection. They're just players in the game. And I hope that this is just another piece of evidence that makes people realize that they cannot be supported. The Conservative government as a structure, not the individuals, but the whole apparatus, the structure, that which is a Conservative government needs to be burnt to the ground, and we need to do a happy dance upon its smoldering embers. That's where we're at. There's no redeeming. There's no reclaiming. There's none of that. The thing's got to go. The thing's got to go. And in its place, what we need are Christians in Canada who, whether it's independently, whether it's municipally, whether it's through other parties, will run and engage and provide alternatives for believers to not vote for squishy conservatives who say that they're Christians and probably aren't, right? The time for this kind of silliness, the time for this let's pretend and let's just go along and not actually understand what's going on, the time for that is over. We understand the entire political civil apparatus, all the parties, all the MPs, all the judges, all the lawmakers, all of the bureaucrats, all of them. They are not for a free, prosperous Canada. They're not for flourishing in Canada. They're not for protecting our rights and liberties and functioning as a servant of God and doing what's required of them. They're not for good laws. They're not for punishing evildoers. They're not for any of that. They're for their own corruption, their own wealth, their own power, their own success, their own privilege. They're for themselves. They're not for us. And so we need to stop supporting them and voting for them and in playing their game and engaging in their system their way. We also need to be more concerned with, and we need to be ready to take care of ourselves, educate our own kids, whatever that looks like, think about our own healthcare and businesses, and stop depending entirely upon a state that is actually set on the destruction of Christian values and will not do anything to push a free and prosperous Canada. So take responsibility for yourself. Take responsibility for your family, commit to a good church, engage, press against the darkness, push back against the darkness and the evil and the decay. And we trust God for the future. We trust the Lord for the future, his plans and his purposes. We do know that he brings reformation and revival. And we hope for that someday in Canada, that we can be a part of the early stages of it in handing it off to our kids and grandkids so that they will be the ones to benefit and enjoy a wonderful, free, and strong Canada someday, long after we're gone. So again, friends, you want to make sure that you head over to our Substack, ldcanada.substack.com. Sign up to our email list. You'll get updates. Become a paid subscriber. That's how you're going to get access to all of our content and interviews. And the only way to get the full interviews, when we interview for our 350th episode, just a month away, Pastor Doug Wilson, John Carpe, Dr. Joe Boot, Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Robert Malone. If you're going to want to get all of these extended full interviews, you have to become a paid subscriber. Also, head over to our YouTube and Rumble channels. Like, subscribe, comment, share, do all that good stuff. Again, I will say that I have been supremely thankful for my time and involvement with Liberty Dispatch. I look forward to the next month of being able to land the plane that is my time with the Dispatch and my podcasting career. And I hope you're excited about that episode, our 350th episode, and my last one. It is going to be tremendous. So, on behalf of Matt, who is not here and almost certainly on a plane, until next time, friends, Galatians 5:1. Liberty Dispatch has been brought to you by SDG Media. If you want to stay in touch with us on all things Liberty Dispatch, join our email list, or support the show, head over to ldcanada.substack.com.